Okay, so, wait a minute, we're live, hang on. Turn on the light. Okay, so, let me see, there we go. I'm working off of a friend's iPad. Mine is kind of choppy, so the live feeds look like my hotspotty feeds, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we talked about it yesterday. Today I'm setting up a new painting. Following these videos, you know it's been like for me, a little bit of up, a lot of downs, and it's really left me mentally and emotionally drained, and so it's very, very hard for me to go, yay, but this is one way I can get myself to go, yay, we're gonna try again, is by going on YouTube and doing live painting sessions. And because we didn't have internet until a couple days ago here at my new place, we couldn't even do that. Like, things have just been, but here we are. I can do live streaming again. I can do painting live again, where I'm not really talking, I'm just kind of painting, and we're working alongside of each other, which I just really enjoy. These studio mate in another state videos. Then they're up forever on YouTube, or for however long YouTube keeps them up, and we can paint together every day. So we're working on that again, yay YouTube. And another way to get myself out of these funks. I've been in a funk literally all day. It's 6 o'clock at night and I'm just starting to work now. But I've got a housemate who's trying to be, he's helping me. He was trying to print out my reference material so I could come in here and tackle something new. Because I always need paintings. I don't know how you work, but I need, excuse me, paintings done in different stages. So I'm not like work on one till it's done. I need a whole bunch of stuff going on, or I can't think. The gears on this little train get stuck if I don't have oil, and the oil for me is new canvases and work at different stages. So I've got my portrait of Pulp Friction, Drag Artist Pulp Friction, part way through, I would say about 35% of the way through, and then I stopped. I got all stymied. I got my painting of Mr. and Miss Gay Rhode Island done-ish. I can still see where it needs work, but I can't think. Because although I've got all these things started, these three girls started, I need something new. So today I decided to start a newer painting. I mean, look at this. I could just keep going and keep myself busy, but instead I get all whiny, and I gotta have a new canvas, whiny, or I can't think, whiny. But today, a little while ago, I was going through my reference material, and something popped up that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and it's a portrait of Sophie Scholl. Now, Sophie Scholl was a member of a small resistance organization called the White Rose. They resisted against the Nazis, and the Nazis and Hitler had they'd taken over all media. All the newspapers. There was no radio broadcast, there was no free speech, there was nothing in the paper. The media was, and how familiar does this sound now? The media was the enemy of the people. That's exactly what the Nazis kept saying, and Hitler kept saying, and they shut down all newspapers, and good little Germans went, "You're right." How familiar does that sound right now? How familiar? And anyone who questioned the Nazi movement, like any other fascist movement, was shut down. They were imprisoned and questioned, and they were executed. And this happened to a young woman named Sophie Scholl, who I'm going to be painting. Sophie Scholl was 21 years old when she was guillotined. 21 years old. Like I said, media had been shut down, newspapers had been shut down. It was either the voice of the Nazi government or it was nothing at all. And Sophie and her brother and several friends were, like many resistors inside Germany at the time, were they were writing. They were writing, they were painting, they were doing all these things to fight back. They were all being scooped up, they were all being executed, but then other people would come in and take their place, like Sophie. She was going to the University of Munich, I believe it was at the time, when she was finally caught with pamphlets in her hands. She was arrested immediately, put on trial, and executed, all within 24 hours, I believe, 24 to 48 hours. And she when she was arrested, she held her head up, and when she was in trial, she spoke directly to those Nazis, saying someone had to say something, somebody had to be the first. And it was because of people as brave as Sophie Scholl that the resistance grew larger and larger and spread throughout Europe, as Nazism did, and then spread the fight to the United States, kind of, sort of. You know, we're cowards. And the really cool thing about Sophie is, I mean, one of the cool things about Sophie is she was Lutheran. She and her brother were brought up Lutheran. So although religion was a no-no, because Hitler had to be the religion, and the belief of Nazism had to be the religion. How familiar does that sound? She raised her voice anyway. She could have lived safely and quietly like millions of other good Germans, and instead, there she was in Munich, fighting back with her art, her words, and her printing press. So they had this small organization called the White Rose. It only existed from 42 to 43, I believe, and then they were all killed, captured, put on tribunal, and killed. But I am struck by the extraordinary courage of this really young woman, when women didn't really have a voice. Very similar to today. We're not really allowed to say much, or we're shut down, and we're, belittled if we don't fit a certain mold and keep quiet. So I greatly admire her, and especially her courage, and at her age, at her time. It's something I hope we never have to live through. But like so many people, I'm frightened by what's going on today. And I've just been crazy about Sophie Scholl kind of obsessed with Sophie Scholl a little bit for several decades. And so I'm going to start a painting of her. And what I'm going to do, we're trying to print out the reference material, which will most likely be a black and white, small, if I'm lucky to be that big, a couple of black and white photographs of her. So I'm prepping the canvas. And what I always do is prep the canvas with black and white gesso. It just makes it more of a puzzle and interesting for me. I'm not doing two canvases this time like I like to do, which makes it even more interesting. I'm only doing the one because that's all I've got. And we're kind of broke. So that's where we're going with. But I'm doing something I haven't done in a while. I was reorganizing my inventory. The paintings that I've done over the years, I was kind of reorganizing them, and I came across a painting called Waiting, which is a portrait of my friend Kathy. It's Kathy at midnight in a Starbucks in Times Square, where we were stuck till about 3 in the morning because of me. We got stuck in a rainstorm, and I didn't want to leave. And then the Long Island Railroad got struck by lightning and was completely shut down. And so, she and I, along with thousands of other people, were completely stuck in New York. Oh, how horrible. But she was stuck with me and wet and tired. And I said, so you're looking at me like I hate you, Becky, but I love you. And she said, that's right. And I said, can I take your picture? She said, yes, I did. And I produced a large painting called Waiting. And it was one of the first 2-panel pieces I did. Well, it's sitting in my little second bedroom, in a climate controlled bedroom, and staring at me. And I can see things that I have to fix, so I'm kind of obsessing over it. But at the same time, I'm seeing these textures in the painting that I really haven't used in a while. And I don't know why. I just kind of forgot to use paint to raise another texture out. So I've taken out, I put on my black and white gesso. Now I'm just kind of wiping in some acrylic paint, and all I happen to have, hang on, is a big goopy tube of yellow. That's all I have for acrylic now, because I don't use it really, except for this. I've kept it for probably 5 years. Don't know why. It's still good. Don't know why that either. But I'm using it to build up this texture. So when it's done, I will have like these, another layer underneath. These provide one layer of interest for me and then the viewer, but mainly for me because I'm the most important person. We have to do this for me. And then this will provide another layer. The lines will cut in and make it pretty interesting, I hope. And there was one more tool I was going to use. Oh, there it is. Now, normally when I'm painting, lately I've been cutting stencils or using stencils, using objects, using doilies to create aerosol textures. So I've got like all these colors and textures popping out. But it's starting to bother me that I don't want it to become rote. I don't want it to become like, oh, of course she's going to do that. Of course it has that in that painting. I don't want that. I don't ever want to be predictable. So what I'm going to be doing on this one is, and I don't have my reference material, what I'm going to be using is pencil. I'm going to be sketching in, probably have to get a couple more, but I'm going to be sketching her in pencil, which is something I never do. I never do. But I think I'm also going to be sketching in roses for the organization, the White Rose, but I'm going to be sketching them in pencil. I may or may not. There's the camera. Nope, I was looking in the right place. Thank you. I may or may not just leave the pencil marks in. I may go over them with oil pastels. But I really want it to be multi-layered and provocative and pull the viewer in and keep me interested. I need to be interested in what I'm doing. So it's going to be pencil, probably oil pastel. I may leave some marks because, as I covered in video a long time ago, Norman Rockwell used to do that. And Norman Rockwell taught me it's okay to leave pencil marks. It's okay to not use paint on every single inch of the surface of the canvas. You can do other things and still create that complex world that you want to create. So that's what's happening up here. Sophie Scholl, pencil, oil pastel that you can't see yet, and that is that. That's nice and lumpy. That's going to be nice and lumpy. But here's the thing, if you haven't added acrylic to a canvas and then put oil over the top, one thing you have to keep in mind is you can't make it too thick. I did it on a painting a long time ago. Somebody's mother, or I think it was my mother or something. Anyway, Julian Soprano, who had to do some legal work for me on Cape Cod, has this painting, My Mother. I think it was somebody's mother. Anyway, Nancy's mother, maybe, because it was after an artist friend of mine, photo of her mom. Anyway, Julian Soprano has it, and when I dropped it off, a few weeks after I dropped it off, I noticed that the acrylic under the oil had started to crack. And I don't want that. I love aging, and I'm really interested in seeing what happens to materials when they age, because that can add a whole nother layer of interest. But I didn't want it happening with that painting. But unfortunately, and this is what I was getting to, is I put the layers of acrylic were too thick in this one section. This is before I started using aerosols. This is back when I just used a white surface because I didn't think, try black and white. I thought this will be interesting. I'll put down acrylic paint in this one spot. I put too much acrylic paint down and correct. After I think even a year, I'm not even sure. So that makes me pretty sad because it wasn't planned out. It just happened. I prefer it if I had planned it. That would have been more fun, but I didn't. So if you're gonna add acrylic to a canvas and apply oil underneath, that's something you have to take into consideration. That if it's more than, I think it's 1/4 of an inch thick, it will most likely crack in a very short period of time or over time. So I'm gonna put this aside, let the acrylic dry, draw in some roses with pencil, and I will probably be online live tomorrow painting. That's Saturday, July something or other, probably the 7th. It's either the 7th or the 8th. I don't know. I never know what day it is. I know it's a Saturday. So I'll be out live, painting online live tomorrow. I don't really have a time yet. Okay, guessing 10, 11 o'clock? We'll have to see though. We'll have to see how my mood goes, but I promise I will be online live tomorrow. All right? Let's get started. Let's get back to working together, okay? Yeah, ciao. Ciao.